welcome to Laurel Smith of Chicago, Illinois, Master Masonry video of the ancient Ethiopian church that houses the biblical Ark of the Covenant. As we look at the front wall surface masonry of the biblical Ethiopian church, we see its holy hydrogen light of creation emblem as a circle that has meridian lines or Arctic circle meridian lines emanating from its center. Below this Arctic circle emblem or circle, as seen upon the front wall surface of the biblical Ethiopian church that houses alien Yeshua'S Ark of the Covenant, we see the cross-shaped Masonic structure of King LALIBELA'S. The cross-shaped structure of King LALIBELA'S refers to the actual building structure that was erected by an ancient Ethiopian king, whose foundation lies underground and whose cross-shaped roof, as seen from a helicopter, lies level with the ground that you walk on. As we now see it appearing within the globe Earth 2121 rectangular KINGSCHAMBER dimensions, where we see 1 John 1:1 holy hydrogen light of creation discovery as seen within the human cell wall plasma in Biology 101. A glowing ionized hydrogen light circle as we see is reference to 1 John 1:1 biblical light, that light of every man that cometh into the world. And we see the holy hydrogen light of creation upon the front wall surface of the Ethiopian church within its cube H structure of Revelation 21st chapter and 2nd verse, referred to as New Jerusalem. Now we have successfully connected the ancient Ethiopian church front wall surface master masonry to the cube structure of Revelation 21st chapter and 2nd verse. And we now see the actual elementary form of the holy hydrogen light of creation as the human soul, or the life force around the human cells as seen in Biology 101 with an electron microscope. We see this ionized holy hydrogen light of creation as existing before the world, because when we compare the 15 billion year old age of the winged Sundays of the Christian Gospels of Psalms 84th chapter 11 verse, sun presence of the creator of our entire solar system, we see the 15 billion year old winged sun disk of the holy hydrogen light of creation existing before the 5 billion year old age of the earth that was given to it in carbon-14 dating in astronomy. Concerning an ancient Ethiopian church front wall surface area where we see the Masonic emblem of an ancient Ethiopian king named King LALIBELA'S. As we look at King LALIBELA'S cross-shaped emblem as seen above the entrance door of the ancient Ethiopian church, we see this cross-shaped masonry or master masonry of an ancient Ethiopian king as it relates to the New Jerusalem cube of Revelation 21st chapter and 8th verse. As King LALIBELA'S, ancient records reveal that he saw the biblical God that created man, who is referred to as Yeshua in the ancient Tapia tomb records. As we see the ancient records referring to instructions given to King LALIBELA'S from an extraterrestrial biological life form that was seen traveling around in Ezekiel's glowing wheel within a wheel like spacecraft that had a crystal dome. Alien Yeshua instructed King LALIBELA'S to build a New Jerusalem. Hence we see this cross-shaped building 11 structure as seen with its foundation underground, and the roof of the building, structure 11 of King LALIBELA'S, appears as a cross. Hence we see the original Ethiopian master masonry of the cube of New Jerusalem. Since this cross-shaped building is theologically and architecturally connected to the cube structure as mentioned in the King James Version of the Bible in Revelation 21st chapter and 2nd verse, as the cube structure of New Jerusalem. When we look at King LALIBELA'S cross-shaped masonry appearing above the entrance door of the Ethiopian church that houses the biblical Ark of the Covenant of alien Yeshua. We see when lines are drawn from the additional Masonic emblems as seen above the front wall entrance. We see triangles aligned along the upper roof line area of the wall of the Ethiopian church that houses the biblical Ark of the Covenant. As we look at this discovery, we see the ancient Ethiopian African church cube structure being generated from its front surface masonry. The cube A structure appears with the Arctic Circle centered within the cube structure of New Jerusalem. That means that the holy hydrogen light of creation discovery in which I made of 1 John 1:1 as seen glowing within the human cell wall plasma in Biology 101, as seen with an electron microscope. This glowing ionized hydrogen light circle is the same light coming as seen in the north and south pole areas of our ball-shaped Earth, and it is coming from Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse, winged Sundays, as the biblical light, the light of every man that cometh into the world. When we look at this archaeological and theological discovery as it relates to the cube of New Jerusalem crystalline 101 atomic planes, whereas we now see the holy hydrogen light of creation coming from Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse, winged Sundays, as the biblical light, the light of every man that cometh into the world. And in carbon-14 dating, we see that the 15 billion year old winged sun throne of Psalms 84 chapter 11 verse, sun presence of the Creator, existed before the 5 billion year old Earth. With this discovery in astronomy as it relates to ancient archaeology, the archaeological temple structure of King LALIBELA'S cross-shaped building 11, we now see the cube structure of Revelation being generated from the master masonry upon the front wall surface of the Ethiopian church that houses the biblical Ark of the Covenant. When we look at the close details, we see a rectangular shape being generated from the same master masonry of the front wall surface. The King LALIBELA'S 11 structure as a cross now appears within the cube structure of Revelation. When we compare the globed earth rectangular king's chamber dimensions as shown here, we see an octagonal equator of Ezra 1st chapter 3rd verse, biblical dome of the rock, serving as the equatorial perimeters of planet Earth, as seen within a rectangle. Hence, we have fully uncovered the actual reasoning behind why an extraterrestrial higher biological life form would actually place within the massive walls of the Giza pyramids a rectangular king's chamber room. As we now see the spokes in a bicycle wheel appearing as meridian lines, or we can see them as meridian lines emerging from an equatorial perimeter of a globed Earth up into its Arctic Circle area. When we view these 6 Pacific lines emerging from the equatorial octagon area of a globe Earth as seen within the Giza pyramid rectangular king's chamber dimensions, we see the hexagonal image of the 1980 Lost Tomb of Jesus, ossuary of Jesus and the Lion in the tribe of Judah. We see 6 Pacific lines appearing within the hydrogen light circle within the North Pole area of our ball-shaped Earth. This glowing white light circle is 6 meridian lines, globed Earth meridian lines, as it relates to the Mercator projection of the geographic land surface topography of planet Earth, longitude and latitude. We have successfully decoded Genesis 49 chapter 8 verse, biblical couching North African lion saints of ancient Judaism. As we see the Genesis 49 chapter and 8 verse fourth son of Jacob, who has the title of the biblical couching lion Sphinx of the tribe of Judah, or the lion of the tribe of Judah. We see Genesis 49, chapter 8, verse, fourth son of Jacob, as mentioned in the first book of the King James Version of the Bible. We see him entering into ancient Egypt amongst the 12 sons of Jacob, as recorded in Psalms 105th chapter and 23rd verse. So we see the fourth son of Jacob, who, as the biblical North African couching lion Sphinx of ancient Judaism, entering into ancient Egypt as the fourth son of Jacob amongst the 12 sons of Jacob, where we see him today couched down in front of the second Giza pyramids that are currently positioned to the three-star area located in the belt of the constellation of Orion, that was created to the home planet that was erected, the Giza pyramids, and aligned to the three stars located in the belt of the constellation of Orion, in commemoration of the home planet of an alien biological life form that had 3 fingers and 1 thumb and green skin. Alien Yeshua is seen traveling around in the Old Testament in Ezekiel's glowing wheel-within-wheel-like spacecraft that had a crystal dome. It soon landed in ancient Egypt. When I looked at the geographic data concerning the actual map location of Mount Sinai, I found, after searching through many geographic books, I found that Mount Sinai UFO landing of an elongated-headed extraterrestrial biological life form that had 3 fingers and 1 thumb and green skin existed in ancient Egypt. So we see the UFO landing of an alien Yeshua connected to elongated-headed Africans of the Adamic race. When we look and agree, when we look for the first Africans that was created by an elongated-headed biological life form that was seen traveling around in the Old Testament within Ezekiel's glowing wheel-within-wheel-like spacecraft, we see alien Yeshua creating the first African Adamic race. Now, if we agree with major archaeologists, with most of the archaeological findings, that Africans was the first people to populate the surface of planet Earth. If we truly agree with this in colleges and schools and seminars, then when we look and return back to Genesis chapter of the earth creation of the first human beings, we should be able to accept that an elongated-headed extraterrestrial biological life form that was seen traveling around in the Old Testament with the atmosphere within Ezekiel's glowing wheel-within-wheel-like spacecraft. We must now agree that alien Yeshua that had 3 fingers and 1 thumb and green skin has been seen successfully creating the first elongated-headed African Adamic race that had 4 fingers and 1 thumb and black skin and an elongated head. With this discovery, we now compare the elongated-headed skulls that are turning up in archaeological sites around the world to the first created African Adamic race. Now we see additional extraterrestrial biological life forms existing upon planet Earth before the creation of the first elongated-headed African Adamic race that had 4 fingers and 1 thumb. These additional biological life forms are referred to as the cherubims of alien Yeshua that existed upon planet Earth with alien Yeshua before the creation of the human race. When science when science and biology meets theology, we have true disclosure as it relates to creation. And 1 John 1:1, holy hydrogen light of creation, that is coming from Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse, winged sun is, as the biblical light, the light of every man that cometh into the world, which can be seen glowing within the human cell wall plasma in Biology 101 with an electron microscope. With this new discovery, we see the cube structure of revelation being generated from the front surface wall master masonry of the biblical Ethiopian church that houses the Ark of the Covenant of alien Yeshua. And now we see the globe earth rectangular king's chamber dimensions as shown here as the globe earth 2121 rectangular king's chamber dimensions actually referring to the Ethiopian church cube structure that's generated from its front wall master masonry. The cube of Revelation, it has now been connected successfully to Isaiah 19:19 Egyptian pyramids, where we currently see the North African biblical counting lion Sphinx of ancient Judaism cast down in front of the three Giza pyramids that are currently positioned to the home planet within the 3 stars area of the belt of the constellation of Orion. When we look at alien Yeshua, actual creation of an elongated headed African Adamic race, everything else disappears. All falsehood disappears when it comes to the true story of North Africa's biblical couching lion Sphinx of ancient Judaism as it relates to the solar theology of 1 John 1:1, holy hydrogen light of creation, which is seen emanating into planet Earth, North and South Pole regions, as a glowing circle of white ionized hydrogen light that has 7 colors coming from it as the 7-color spectrum of the rainbow. This soon becomes the 7 spirits as spoken of in the Christian Bible, in the book of Revelation, that issues forth, that are seen issuing forth from Psalms 84th chapter 11 verse winged Sundays. When we compare the cube structure of Revelation to the constellation of Orion image that is seen being generated from the extended apotums and baselines of the Giza pyramids, we see the constellation of Orion being generated upon the Giza pyramids as it is seen overlapping a rectangular king's chamber structure that is also generated from the extended apotums and baselines of the Giza pyramid. When we reconnect North Africa's biblical couching lion Sphinx of ancient Judaism as referenced in Genesis 49 chapter 8 verse, we would be uncovering the actual cube structure of Revelation as it relates to the Giza pyramids and the Jerusalem biblical dome of the rock octagon as referenced in Ezra 1st chapter 3rd verse, where we see when a series of octagons of the biblical dome of the rock of King David and Solomon, when these octagons are aligned together or connected in a series, the resulting image is a 121 king's chamber that has its own gable roof and Masonic wall blocks and king's chamber coffer. When we reconnect North Africa's biblical couching lion Sphinx of ancient Judaism to the ancient Ethiopian church that houses the biblical Ark of the Covenant, we see the front wall surface of the Ethiopian church that houses the biblical Ark of the Covenant, revealing its cube structure, its cube H structure of New Jerusalem, that is, has 3 ABC pyramids. The Giza pyramids are also generated from the front wall masonry as seen upon the front wall of the Ethiopian church that houses the biblical Ark of the Covenant. When we connect alien Yeshua'S Giza pyramids to alien Yeshua'S Ethiopian church and to the Masonic masonry of King LALIBELA'S cross-shaped 11 structure, we see a full cube crystal city of Revelation disclosure as it relates to the holy hydrogen light of creation circle that is seen above in the north and south pole area of our ball-shaped earth. We now see it's centered within the rectangular structure as generated from the master masonry of the ABC wall of the Giza pyramids, front wall surface of the Ethiopian church that is generating the Giza pyramids. So now we see the holy hydrogen light of creation of alien Yeshua being connected to the Arctic Circle and the 1980 Tapia Jerusalem Lost Tomb of Jesus ossuary circles that has an hexagon within a circle that is referring to Genesis 49 chapter 8 verse biblical couching lion Sphinx of ancient Judaism, and its original holy hydrogen light of creation origin of Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse winged Sundays scriptural reference as seen in 1 John 1:1 as the biblical light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. We now see this ionized holy hydrogen light of creation being generated within the human cell wall plasma as seen in Biology 101 with an electron microscope. As we look at the human cell wall plasma, holy hydrogen light of creation, being a representation of the biblical light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world, as spoken of in ancient Christianity and Judaism. We now see a 15 billion year old winged sun disk of Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse, shining 93 million miles away across the vastness and blackness of outer space towards planet Earth. As it enters the north and south pole regions of our ball-shaped Earth that is seen in rotation around Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse, winged sun disk of the holy hydrogen light of creation, we now see the ionized hydrogen light as existing 10 billion years, the ionized holy hydrogen light of creation, as referenced in the King James Bible, as the biblical light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. We now see it entering the north and south pole regions of our bar-shaped Earth as the solar wind that has 7 glowing colors coming from it, as referenced in the last book of the King James Version of the Bible. In the book of Revelation, it is referred to as the 7 spirits that are seen issuing forth from Psalms 84th chapter 11 verse, winged sun disk of the creator, of the solar creator of the 9 planets within our solar system, as well as planet Earth. As we see the reference to the biblical light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world of 1 John 1:1 as the holy hydrogen light of creation that is seen glowing around the human cell wall plasma, we now see the ancient origin of Genesis 49 chapter 8th verse, biblical couching lion sphinx of ancient Judaism. Welcome to Laurel Smith of Chicago, Illinois, Master Masonry video of the ancient Ethiopian church that houses the biblical Ark of the Covenant. As we look at the front wall surface masonry of the biblical Ethiopian church, we see its holy hydrogen light of creation emblem as a circle that has meridian lines or Arctic circle meridian lines emanating from its center. Below this Arctic circle emblem or circle, as seen upon the front wall surface of the biblical Ethiopian church that houses alien Yeshua'S Ark of the Covenant, we see the cross-shaped Masonic structure of King LALIBELA. The cross-shaped structure of King LALIBELA refers to the actual building structure that was erected by an ancient Ethiopian king, whose foundation lies underground and whose cross-shaped roof, as seen from a helicopter, lies level with the ground that you walk on. As we now see it appearing within the globe Earth 2121 rectangular KINGSCHAMBER dimensions, where we see 1 John 1:1 holy hydrogen light of creation discovery as seen within the human cell wall plasma in Biology 101. A glowing ionized hydrogen light circle as reference as we see its reference to 1 John 1:1 biblical light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. And we see the holy hydrogen light of creation upon the front wall surface of the Ethiopian church within its cube H structure of Revelation 21st chapter and 2nd verse, referred to as New Jerusalem. Now we have successfully connected the ancient Ethiopian church front wall surface master masonry to the cube structure of Revelation 21st chapter and 2nd verse. And we now see the actual elementary form of the holy hydrogen light of creation as the human soul, or the life force around the human cells as seen in Biology 101 with an electron microscope. We see this ionized holy hydrogen light of creation as existing before the world, because when we compare the 15 billion year old age of the winged sun disk of the Christian Gospels of Psalms 84th chapter 11 verse, sun presence of the creator of our entire solar system, we see the 15 billion year old winged sun disk of the holy hydrogen light of creation existing before the 5 billion year old age of the earth that was given to it in carbon-14 dating in astronomy. Rotation through the north and south poles of planet Earth. When we look at this on the cellular level, we see the first pre-protozoan cells assuming a figure 8 pattern or peanut-shaped pattern in the garden soil. Since man was created from the garden soil in ancient Eden, all we need to do is look at the first cells forming under ionized hydrogen-based environment, a magnetic hydrogen-based environment within the soils. And what I've come up with is glowing bacteria cells with blue, green, and yellow light. Remember, there are 7 colors in white light, 7 colors in the rainbow, and 7 spirits come from the throne of God in the book of Revelation. We already identified Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse sun as the throne of God. Now we see this ionized hydrogen light is observed around trees and Curlian photography. It becomes the biblical light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world on the cellular level when we see it glowing in Biology 101 around the human cell wall plasma with an electron microscope. Therefore, what was the whole message of ancient Judaism? Okay, it was about this ionized hydrogen light coming from Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse, winged sun disk. The same light turns out to be the actual living consciousness of the holy hydrogen light of creation, not the consciousness of a biological life form. My discovery proves that this ionized hydrogen light coming from Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse, winged sun disk, created all microcellular organisms, including the sperm cell of man, which can be found also in Genesis with an electron microscope. A handful of dirt magnified in Biology 101 shows bacteriophages with phosphorus, the 15th element on the periodic chart, glowing light around a sperm cell head. So, man's sperm cell can be found in the garden soil of Eden, swimming with the same image, likeness, and speed of a bacteriophage T4. Now, phosphorus light is created when helium nuclei of the sun bombards the luminosilicates of the soil. It creates a radioactive phosphorus atom, glowing just like the light we see around the male sperm cell. So if helium of Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse, winged sun disk, testimony of Jesus Christ, if helium nuclei bombarding luminosilicates in the garden soil creates a radioactive phosphorus, it's called P30. 30 electrons orbiting its nucleus. Alright? Man has 15 electrons orbiting his phosphorus nucleus. But the phosphorus light in man is created by helium nuclei of the sun shining upon the ancient aluminosilicate composition of the garden soil. After a time, this radioactive phosphorus loses its charge. So it turns into aluminum-27. Back into the luminosilicate composition of the soil. The bacteriophage, however, the chemical tail of DNA with the mitochondrial head still exists. So now we find this same ionized hydrogen light coming from Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse, winged sun disk, is responsible for creating fruits, vegetables, apples, and oranges through photosynthesis for the whole entire planet. Now I ask you, ministers, pastors, and preachers nationwide, what is the true biblical light of our world? Take a minute to answer that question. It's coming from Malachi 4th chapter 2nd verse, winged sun disk, as ionized hydrogen light. The same light we see in Biology 101 around the human cell wall plasma. So in this great theological discovery, okay, which connects the Egyptian Sphinx of Genesis 49 chapter 8 verse to the county lion in front of the second pyramid as the fourth son of Jacob, the biblical lion of the tribe of Judah. And theological racism, in which I discovered, carried out by Daniel 8 chapter 12 verse, Greek civilizations that denied the role of the Egyptian Sphinx in the Christian Bible as the fourth son of Jacob, as the original, holding and carrying the original message of ancient Judaism. Thank you for watching and viewing and listening to this great theological archaeological discovery of Laurel Smith of Chicago, Illinois.